Welcome back, everybody. Let's take a break with Stephen. This is Stephen Shamus.
Good to see you, my friend. I see you got a haircut.
I got a haircut. I got a beard trim. I went down to Miami. I sweated
Oh, that's right. Your
every
beard is a
pore,
little.
everything. Yeah, it's like I've seen my cheekbones in many years to understand where my face ends and begins.
Well, it's 120 degrees in San Antonio where we're doing our
Oh
show.
my
So
gosh, yeah. Well, I do that in dry heat any day. It's the humidity kills me.
I don't know. I'm staying inside, man. That's all
Yeah.
I can tell you. I'm staying indoors.
Take the
All right.
Ubers 5 minutes if you need to.
Yes. All right. So what do we got today, Alex?
All right, we're gonna wrap up our snake people from the last couple episodes, and then we're gonna
Mhm.
jump into the Netflix Mark Miller stuff. Mark Millar, depending on who you talk to.
Who you talk to?
Yeah, but like he's this Netflix stuff, like he's got Jupiter Legacy's already out. He's got something else coming out. Like this stuff's
Mhm.
coming, and with the boys being as big as it is, all it's gonna take is one of these properties to land and hit for everything to just go right out the door, right at the door, skyrocket.
Yeah, and I think also, as you're seeing with the Hollywood strike and everything that's going on, that being reliant on a guy like Mark Millar makes it easier to pump out content. When you go on Netflix, I'm just speculating, but it feels like more than half of the stuff is foreign. It's not
Yeah,
even American.
yeah,
I mean, I don't know if I'm that far off, by the way, because when you scroll through, so much of the stuff is anime from foreign
yep,
countries or
yep,
TV shows from foreign countries or foreign language films and foreign
yeah.
language things. So they're becoming less reliant on it. And then if you have a guy like Mark Millar who's already written the story, they don't necessarily need a writer for a TV. I mean, obviously they need to write it for TV,
Yeah.
but they don't need the same kind of writing
Yeah.
because the story's already written.
Stories there, and
So
then the comic books are art, so the storyboards are already there. You
the
just break it
storyboards are
apart,
already
like
there.
it's ready to go. Yeah, exactly,
Yeah.
exactly.
Okay, cool. What are we starting with, Alex?
Yeah, let's talk Constrictor.
Yeah, supposed to be in Captain America: New World Order, rumored. By the way, my biggest recollection of Constrictor is he was one of the rare figures back from Secret Wars action figures
Oh, he
back in
might
the
have
day.
been.
I think he
Yeah, he
was one of
might
the
have been.
rare. I think he was one of the rare, tough to find figures back in the day. I can't remember, but maybe.
Oh man, I love
Okay.
those figures. Those
Oh, those
the little
figures.
with
I mean,
the little like things on it. Yeah, right. Yeah.
even today, when I go on eBay or somewhere and I see the old Secret Wars or Superpower figures, it takes me back to when I
Oh
was a
yeah.
kid.
Oh yeah. Right away. Right away.
The
And you're right.
superpowers, the
Yep.
superpower figures.
I know. I know. I love them.
Those were the coolest figures ever. The superpowers and the Secret Wars ones.
Yep.
Oh my God.
Yep.
I used to love those figures. Okay. So talk to me about Constrictor, the character Frank Payne.
Yeah, so Frank Payne. So there's two Constrictors, of course, because it's the Marvel. There's Frank Payne, and then his son Frank Payne Jr., I believe. But Constrictor was it's kind of a fun story. He was a Shield operative that they had him go undercover in the snake villainy circle. And they had him kind of like as a spy go in there and join these villains and see what they're doing. So he does that, and he has a suit that gives him powers, with some gauntlets. And while he's undercover, he gets brain damage in a fight and actually becomes a villain. So he then becomes a villain and is a villain throughout the Marvel universe. But yeah, you're right. This is one of those characters that you see the costume, you know who it is, but you don't read that much on him. And he did have an action figure, which is wacky because you don't think of Constrictor being big enough for a Secret Wars action figure.
No.
But yeah,
That was great.
big
Okay.
people.
So Incredible Hulk Volume 2, number 212, June of 1977. 24 9.8s, 47 9.6s, 29 9.4s. Right now, it's a $400 book in 9.8, $165 in 9.6. First appearance of the Constrictor, Frank Payne, Len Wein story, Sal Buscema and Ernie Chan art, Rick Buckler and Ernie Chan cover. All right, what do you got next, Alex?
All right, our first Millar world, Empress.
Yeah, it's talking about being on Netflix.
Yeah.
It's interesting that Mark Millar has created this whole universe. Talk a little bit about the differences between this. So first you have Empress. What's Empress's story?
So Empress is your space opera, right? So Empress is about a queen of of a throne world is what her world is called, but a queen of a world. And the king, her husband, is just a monster. He's terrible. He treats everybody terrible. So the queen grabs her bodyguard, probably a love interest, her sons, a daughter, and they flee. And of course, the king finds out and is like, "I don't like this. I need them back now. Put a bounty on him and bring him in." So it's one of these like space operas, like traveling through space. Witness protection um, type comics, and it's in space. So very fun, very like on the run, and you feel for the Empress.
Got it. Okay. So Empress #1, Stuart Immonen cover. It's got a white logo, June of 2016. There are 36.98. It's about $125. Mark Millar story, Stuart Immonen cover and art. There's a blank sketch cover. Those are $5 to $10 raw. The Scotty Young variant cover, 9.8. That's about $10 to $12 raw. The Stuart Immonen white variant cover, 9.8. That's about $50. Then there's the Sean Murphy 1 in 25 variant cover, only 4 9.8s. That's about a $25 raw book. The McNiven 1 in 100 variant cover, there's only 7 9.8s. That's about a $50 raw book. Then there's the Immonen 1 in 200 sketch cover, only 13 9.8s. That's about $100 raw. And then there's the second print, which came out in July of 2016, 2 9.8s. That's about a $50 book in 9.8. So not too expensive right now. Obviously, this is all speculation that if and when the show hits the air, which it's supposed to, right? It's scheduled to. These are the ones that are actually scheduled to be on Netflix. And I think with the writer's strike as it goes on, and with the actor strike as it goes on, I think these properties are going to become more important because they don't need the same writers and actors that the other ones need. And I think Netflix
it's what I think in the restaurant business, it's turnkey, right? When you buy a turnkey restaurant, it's a restaurant that's out of business, but you get the keys and it's already got the grills and the tables and the chairs, and it's ready to go. And that's what Netflix did with the Mark Miller stuff. Is it's a turnkey property. Like, they have the writers, they have the art, like it's ready to go. They can hand a graphic novel to a bunch of people. They'll flip it out, turn it in, and then they start filming right away. So yeah.
Okay, good. All right. Alex's pick of the week. What do you got today, Alex? Curious.
So I was in the wonderful, terribly humid Florida SuperCon, and I was going through back issue bins, and I like weird stuff. I'm not like a full run of Superman guy. So I was looking through the magazine stuff, and this guy had a lot of fanzines, and it made me like it kind of like dawned on me, like, man, like fanzines, as a weird collectible, is probably one of the weirdest in the comic book world. You get like these, some of these really early fanzines, and if anybody doesn't know what a fanzine is, essentially fans making a magazine for something they like, and it's usually on like black and white paper. It's the cheapest done, and these were things that were mailed away or just given out at shows. But some of these will have like original Frank Frazetta covers, and Marv Wolfman stories and articles by people, Paul Levitz, that people who were doing Jim Shooter, like art and creators that ended up in comics, did fanzines for a while in the 60s and 70s and 80s. And they were so popular that at one point, Marvel and DC made their own fanzine. Like, that's what Foom and the Adventure Worlds, the Amazing Worlds of DC Comics, those were publishers making fanzine style books. I mean, cardstock paper, magazine format, two-tone, one-tone colors. And some of these stuff is just worth a lot of money. So I think it's worth, when you're like, if you're like traveling around, going to comic book stores, or you're going to like yard sales, to check out some of these fanzines, because they could be worth money depending on who's on it. Jim Steranko did some covers for these things. So it's just an interesting world.
The original Overstreets.
Oh yeah.
Had original art. Also, speaking of fanzines, Wizard did have a few competitors over the years. There was one glossy one from a guy who had a video game magazine. I can't remember the name of it.
Amazing Adventures, I think, was one.
It didn't last. Hero
Illustrated. Yeah.
It didn't last too long.
Yeah.
But they came right at us. They thought they were going to do a better job. And then I think there was a time when Marvel and DC was trying to do their own fanzines.
Yeah.
I think they wanted not Wizard to control the narrative. I think they wanted to control their own narrative. And the problem is that Marvel was only writing about Marvel books.
Right.
and DC was only writing about DC books.
Right.
And at that time, Image was like 25% of the market.
Yeah.
And so it was like Marvel was 40%, DC was 30%, and Image was 25%. And if you're just reading a magazine all about Marvel comics that's written by Marvel, people were like, they weren't really going to get they weren't really going to get in-depth stuff. So they didn't, those magazines didn't last too long either.
Yeah. Most fanzines didn't. Yeah.
Didn't last too long. Okay, great. What do we got next, Alex?
Huck.
Another Mark Millar story. So this is also scheduled to be on Netflix. So what is this a Huck Finn take?
I wish. No, funny enough, Huck was written after the rumor is Mark Millar saw Man of Steel and it was so dark and broody that he's like, that's not Superman. Superman should be lighthearted and he's a nice guy. He's like salt of the earth. So he wrote this book, Huck, which is about a small Midwestern town where there is a man who helps people in the town. He's got super strength. He's clairvoyant. He's essentially a Superman. And this town folks, as payment of him helping them, don't talk about him. Don't let the world know. Don't mention it outside their town. And then one day somebody comes in, sees him, relates to the media, and then it's a feeding frenzy. The military, the scientists that maybe have made him, the government, everybody wants a piece of this person. And it's a fun book because the character Huck is the word, like you used to say, like he was simple, like he was just a very kind soul, maybe not the smartest person, definitely on the lower end of the IQ, but again, just like Superman was, he was just salt of the earth, super nice, wants to help people. So very interesting story.
Right. And in this case, it's Raphael Albuquerque doing the art.
Yep.
So Huck #1, November of 2015, Raphael Albuquerque cover A, where he's sitting. 46.9.8. That's about $100 book. And then Raphael Albuquerque cover B, where he's standing. The variant cover 32.9.8. That's also about $100. All right. What are we closing with today?
King of Spies. One more.
Is this like the Taron Egerton movie?
Kingsman?
Kingsman
also written by Mark Millar. Also a comic book.
So what's King of Spies?
So King of Spies is neat. King of Spies is essentially, you have the world's greatest secret agent. He's James Bond's bigger than James Bond. He is the guy. And then all of a sudden he finds out that he has 6 months to live, and he's got and he's got to figure out what he's got to do. Like, is he just gonna fade into the background? Is he gonna go live his life? But he kind of decides that he's had a lifetime of bad decisions. He's been he was a spy. He did some bad stuff. So he's gonna try to flip it around. So he goes on a spree to kind of like get rid of these government and like these agencies that are harmful to humans. So it's like, I've got nothing left to live for. I'm going to make up for all the bad stuff I did. So lots of shooting, lots of killing.
Well, that's typical for Mark Millar story. Okay. Okay. Got it. Kingsman for sure. Right. How many people died in Kingsman?
Oh my gosh. That whole church, right? Like that church scene, at least.
Spoiler.
Yeah. Right.
Okay.
Yeah.
King of Spies #1, Mateo Scalero cover, December of 2021. 41.9.8. It's about $60 book. That the Mateo Scalero is the artist on King of Spies. The red logo, black and white variant cover B. There's only 17.9.8. That's about a $75 book. Then there's the Mark Chiarello red variant cover C, 18.9.8. That's about a $60 book. Oscar Yildirim gun on shoulder variant cover D, 29.9.8. That's about $8 to $12 raw. There's the blank variant cover E, 0 pop, $5 to $8 raw. Then there's a limited edition of 400, the Quintessaya Comic Rail edition, 6 9.8s. It's $25 raw. You could buy it direct. Then there's limited to 500 is the Hive Comics edition with a Pepe Valencia cover. There's 10 9.8s, and you could buy that for $20 direct. Do you know Hive Comics or or Comic Rail?
No, those sound like online people to me. I don't think I've really heard of that.
Okay, Comic Rail or Hive Comics. Okay, I feel like we mentioned Hive Comics and Comic Rail.
Yeah, which makes me feel like they do a lot of variant covers.
Yeah. Then there's the Ryan Kincaid Hooked on Comics edition.
Yep.
Do you know Hooked on Comics or no?
No, but I love Ryan. Ryan's a good dude.
Oh
I
yeah,
like that guy.
okay.
Yeah.
2 9.8s. I own a really nice Punchline cover from him.
Oh, nice. Yeah, I love Ryan.
Yeah, 2 9.8s, $8 to $12 raw. And then there's the Hooked on Comics Virgin edition, 2 9.8s. That's $8 to $12 raw. All right. We thank you for joining us today. If you have any questions or comments, please leave them in the field below. Otherwise, we'll see you all next week. Same bad time.
Same bad channel.